Robert, what's your thumbnail on what the hell happened on Sunday? I mean, I know it might take you 10 minutes to unload, but where are you?
I mean, you guys are gluttons for punishment, man. There's a game tomorrow night. Like, let's move on. Seriously.
No, that
what's crazy?
I'm over it, Robert. I said my piece. I broke it down for everybody. I'm good.
We didn't have Tyvis until today.
I was over it after 24 hours.
That's why we're doing it all today.
You. Well, that was first of all, that was a flat ball that he kicked, though, wasn't it? That's not. They have a new style of kicking the onside kicks where they kick that spinner like that because it's just so hard to handle the ball. But you got to teach somebody on the side. And I know you're talking about somebody make the hit, but if that ball gets to you and you're on that hands team and you're that close to the sideline, knock that thing out of bounds. I mean,
that's it.
You know, and that's game over right there. I mean, and it's so crazy. I saw or I heard the stat during the game or after the game that it had been some more than 2,000 games since a team had given up the lead with less than 2 minutes. And I apologize for laughing. I had no idea that it was the Browns that did it back in 2001, the last time. And it just a gut punch, to put it kindly, right? Like we can think of much worse ways to phrase that. But I just felt so bad for the team to lose that way with everything that the Browns have been through for years and years. For a game to end like that, you just got to say, I mean, of course, right? Like it had to end that way. What other way could it possibly end?
Robert, you're right with the of course. Every time we say that's the most Browns thing ever, it gets topped. Sunday was the most Browns thing ever. And yet, you know what? In 24 hours from now, the Muni lot, which is about 200 yards behind where we're sitting right now, will be jam-packed with people on a weekday hydrating themselves to get ready to go into the stadium and root their lungs out for this football team. That's, you're from here. You know what the makeup of these fans are. We are gluttons for punishment. We'll be right back there Thursday thinking that was a one-off. Tonight's our night.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. The short week, even though for players, sometimes it can be difficult just because you're a little bit banged up and you have less time to recover. When it's a situation like this and there's a game like that you want to get over, this is the best way to do it, right? You have to be on that short week schedule, forget about what happened the week before, and just get ready to play.
Robert, what's the biggest challenge with a Thursday night game? I know players hate them.
Well, it's just a quick turnaround. I always liked them. I liked them because, you didn't have the normal Wednesday type practice where you got 9-on-7 and all the pads and everything like that. So, the weeks were a little bit shorter, mostly just kind of walk through stuff. And if you're banged up, obviously you don't like it because you have to turn around so quickly. But it just was. I always liked the Thursday night games, and the install is a little bit quicker. For people that are trying to make some changes and adjustments. So for younger players, sometimes it can be more difficult. But I always liked Thursday night games because, it just meant that we were going to get right back at it sooner. And then after you're done with that game, you get a nice little break. Sometimes you can even go home and, watch your college team play.
Robert, what you think of your Buckeyes, man? Was you happy with the 77? Are you concerned about the defense? I got my own concerns. How you feel about it?
Yeah, and I think, we heard from Jim Knowles afterwards, like he's expecting, he kind of builds it in, that with the aggressive style that they played defensively, that they're going to be giving up some big plays. I think the thing that, if you're looking at it position by position, Burke again struggled, coming off of the freshman campaign that was so solid. Everybody expected, much different things this year. But it's the time to be doing it, right? Before you get into Big Ten play and you want to kind of make those mistakes at 100 miles an hour. And I think, you know this as a defensive player and even as an offensive player, I had coaches tell me all the time, either be right or be wrong, but be decisive, right? So you want to try and get guys making aggressive mistakes. But it just, in his case, it just seems like, whether it's a technique thing from time to time, just tracking the ball from time to time, those have been some struggles. And, Finn's probably he's the best quarterback or at least the most athletic quarterback probably that the team's going to play throughout the regular season. So not making any excuses, but, you saw him on that 23-yard run. You had guys in position just diving at his feet. And I heard Knowles talking about the players diving at his feet and saying, you got to take those few extra steps. But that guy was just gone. He was quick.
He was.
Buckeyes actually have a real opponent this week, Robert. Wisconsin in conference for the first time this year. What are your expectations for this? I mean, Wisconsin's always tough. I know the spread's 17, but I feel like Wisconsin's always tough. I don't know. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them play.
Always tough. And even back when I played, and it was really, as Barry Alvarez was just taking over and really turning that program around. I remember we lost there in '92. And that place is just a hornet's nest, right? This is before jump around even came into the into the stadium experience. It's always tough. You got one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in the country, and you just expect a physical style of football out of them. But obviously they've already lost to Washington State, but they didn't give up a whole lot of yards in that game. So I think defensively, you can expect what we've seen in the past out of Jim Leonard, the defensive coordinator in this defense. I think they're going to play stout defensively. I just don't think that they have the athletes to keep up with, the stable of wide receivers. And how impressive was that? I mean, getting Fleming back, man, that one catch he had,
oh my God,
fingertips, like catching the edges of the ball, man, and Marvin Harrison. It just looked better and better. And, of course, Igbuka and Jackson Smith and Jigba back and healthy and into the lineup. I mean, there's just too much firepower offensively.
And some of the throws that Stroud made, there were two balls that I can think of. One was for a touchdown that actually were caught out of bounds.
Yeah.
The receiver's hands were out of bounds. He was putting the ball, Robert, where only his guy could catch it, and he was doing it on throws of some distance downfield.
Yep.
His accuracy was incredible. At one point, I think he was 18 of 20, and when he threw his next incompletion, you could tell he was furious with himself. He doesn't want to throw any incompletions.
Yeah, and that's great coaching. And, now calling NFL games as opposed to college games, that's something that really stands out. I mean, the athletes are just so much better defensively. The windows are so small, and ball placement becomes that much more important for the quarterbacks. And C.J. Stroud has clearly been working on that. It's not just put it on the numbers. It's put it, as you say, exactly where it needs to be. If it's going to be away from the defender, away from the leverage, but pinpoint accuracy and a high level of expectations. The expectations that people have outside are never going to be higher than you have for yourself.
Hey, Robert,
where you been, Jay?
Wait, Robert. Jay had to go to the bathroom. He only made it an hour.
I'm glad.
Had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the show.
Yes.
Hey, would you have Taco Bell for lunch?
Old man.
Oh, my God.
Listen, Robert Smith has a question for you. Go ahead, Robert.
I can't hear. Hang on.
Did you have Taco Bell for lunch? What's up, man?
That was a border run.
I mean, my God.
Normally,
Jay and I are older than you. We never go during the show.
I actually did. Like, a couple weeks ago, it was Jason.
Yes!
Jason was doing a final take.
Oh, yeah.
he like army crawled.
And I go, I got this. Jason's not going to go long. And about 3 minutes into it, it's 1 o'clock. I mean, we were sitting here 2 hours, no commercials, and I sucked out 2 Gatorades during the show. I literally hit the floor and army crawled under the camera.
Under the camera.
I had to.
Wait a minute. Let me say this.
You did
This
it.
all started with Tyvis.
I'm gonna take the blame because I did start this.
You're the first one that ever did it.
I have done it twice.
Robert, it's tough, man. You're sitting here for 2 hours.
2 hours,
man.
no bathroom break.
Yeah.
And I will say the only 2 people who have not had to do that.
Bull and G. Bush.
3. Bull, G. Bush, and Steve Curran. Steve Curran could go 15
Didn't
hours.
I do it
if
once?
he
I
had
didn't
to.
do it once. I thought I did.
Maybe you did.
Normally it hits me like 12:20 and I
not.
can squirm in the chair long enough to make it to 1.
Robert,
Today there is
Isn't that
no
a terrible
way.
feeling, though? You're looking at the clock.
Let
It's
me
like,
ask you,
I wish
Robert,
all y'all would shut up so we get in the
let me
show.
ask both Robert and Tyvis this, for both of you. When you played your first Big Ten game of the season, or even more importantly, as a freshman, or if you're a redshirt sophomore, whatever, when you played your first Big Ten game ever, did it mean a little more than the other games, even if you'd played a good opponent before, or no?
Well, for me, as a freshman at Ohio State, it was just kind of getting used to playing big time football. And I've told you guys before, but, didn't really grow up as a big college football fan, quite frankly. I wasn't watching a lot of the games, and to me, all the games were big. But it was our third game of the season that was a kind of a big one for me too, because we were playing against USC, and USC had been my second choice of schools. So playing against the team that you had turned down, that was kind of a big one. But yeah, the Big Ten games mattered, but when you're a freshman, all those games matter.
For me, the Big Ten games, they had a little bit more weight because it's your conference play. These matter, and you always wanted to get to the Big Ten championship game. So, I think they held a little bit more weight. I think my first one, we opened up against Wisconsin, and I was playing nickel. I was a red shirt freshman, so I was playing nickel. And, obviously they don't run a lot of 11 personnel. So I see my snaps was limited that game, Yeah.
Robert, when you look ahead for back to the Browns now, when you look ahead for the Browns, it's a short week. Yeah, they've got a lot of things to fix and to clean up. But the Steelers obviously haven't been world beaters. They're very much like us. Right. They could be 2-0. They could be 0-2. They both sit here at 1-1. How do you see this football game playing out, and what are your thoughts on Mitch Trubisky so far?
Yeah, Mitch has always been inconsistent, right? I mean, that's kind of what we've seen, except maybe when he was playing at Menor out there. But for me, it's not Mitch Trubisky that's the problem. It's the offensive line that's been a real problem. I mean, you look at Najee Harris on the season, averaging less than 3 yards a carry. That's not Steeler football. So it's not just Mitch Trubisky. He was sacked 3 times in the game against New England, sacked once in the opener, and that can be a real problem. Now, I know Clowney is going to be out, and Myles Garrett has the neck. I assume that he's going to play. But I expect the Browns to get after Mitch Trubisky really well. They're going to be able to shut down that run, I believe, because that offensive line, again, has just struggled. And, they thought that, bringing in Mason Cole at center, bringing in, his experience along with their right guard that's got a lot of experience. As a matter of fact, those two guys had more starts coming into the season than the rest of the offensive line combined for the Steelers. But it takes a while for offensive lines to gel, and it's the most important thing for any offense to operate is for an offensive line to gel, to see things the same way. So as long as Jacoby Brissett and this offense take care of the football, I think the Browns come out with a victory.
All right, well, we like to hear that. Robert, as always, thanks for joining us. Great insight. Are you working a game this weekend, or are you off?
No, I'm working a game. We have Atlanta at Seattle. So I'm excited. And both of them coming off losses, frustrated. So it'll be fun. And always it's always great to get up to the Pacific Northwest, too. It's beautiful up there before the rain season starts.
Yes, it really is. And I'm glad you're actually working that, because obviously the next opponent for the Browns is Atlanta, so you'll have a great scouting report for us ahead of the Browns-Falcons game. And hopefully we're talking about them trying to get to 3-1. So have a great call and enjoy the game. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things real quick that I didn't even realize until I was, looking up some background information on Pete Carroll is that he was at Ohio State back in 1979.
I don't think I knew that either.
I didn't know that either.
So,
wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and he just seems like such a fun guy, and obviously followed his career both as a coach, or excuse me, back when I was playing, and now as an analyst, and it's gonna be a fun one. They've got their work cut out for them this game and for the rest of the season, but it's always fun to meet coaches like that have such great careers.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Robert.
Robert, have a good game. We'll talk to you next week.
Go Bucks.
Okay, guys.
Robert Smith with